You ever have one of those neighbors who just can't leave you alone? Well, imagine this, someone calling the cops on you 5 times in less than 3 months. For things like mowing your lawn too early or having a quiet barbecue with family. That's exactly what happened to me at my lake cabin. And here's the kicker, not even part of the HOA, never was. My property's completely outside their jurisdiction. But that didn't stop HOA Karen from making it her personal mission to get me fined, shut down, or kicked out altogether. At first, I thought it was just a misunderstanding. The cabin's been in my family for decades. It's peaceful, well-kept, and fully compliant with county codes. But Karen didn't care. She claimed my dock was non-approved, said my guests were violating occupancy rules, and even told police I was disrupting community harmony. Each time the officers showed up, they left, shaking their heads, apologizing. Still, she kept pushing. After the 5th call, I had enough. I started documenting everything, every visit, every message, every baseless complaint. And when I found out she wasn't acting with any official HOA backing, that's when I made my move. I filed a lawsuit for harassment and false claims. What happened next changed everything, not just for me, but for the whole neighborhood. And trust me, the outcome was bigger than even I expected. So how did it all play out? Let's just say Karen wasn't ready for what hit her. The cabin sits on private land. My grandfather bought back in the 70s, well before any HOA was ever formed around the lake. It's technically outside their reach, but over the years, as the neighborhood grew, the HOA kept expanding its influence. Most folks around here know the line, and they respect it. But not Karen. From the moment she moved in, she acted like she ran the entire lakefront, clipboard in hand, always watching, always ready with some new violation she'd invented. At first, it was small things. She left notes about my non-standard display, roofing and unapproved boat colors, which honestly made no sense. I laughed them off and didn't think too much of it. But when the police started showing up again, and Agani realized it was more serious than I thought. Each time they came, they said the same thing. Someone from the HOA reported a problem, but no actual violations were found. Karen never came forward directly, but the officers hinted they'd seen similar calls from the same address. I tried to talk to the HOA board, but they claimed they didn't send her, and she wasn't acting with their approval. That's when I started documenting everything, photos of my undisturbed property, audio clips of her shouting from the road, and police visit records. I kept it all organized, not sure what I'd do with it yet. But I had a feeling this wasn't going to stop on its own. Karen was playing a long game, and I needed to be ready. It wasn't just about the police visits anymore. Karen had started talking to other neighbors, spreading rumors that I was breaking lakefront regulations and running illegal rentals. None of it was true. Of course, I don't rent the cabin out, and everything on the property meets the county's legal requirements. Still, you could feel the shift. People started giving me strange looks. A few even stopped waving when they passed by on the water. It was like she was poisoning the well, one conversation at a time. One neighbor, Dave, quietly pulled me aside one afternoon and said Karen had asked him to sign a petition to have my property reviewed for noncompliance. When he refused, she told him he should be careful who he supports. That's when I realized this wasn't just her being annoying. She was trying to push me out. Maybe she thought she could force me to sell or give up the place by making life uncomfortable. I wasn't going anywhere, though. I also found out from another neighbor that Karen had once tried the same thing with a retired couple who lived 2 cabins down. She claimed their shed was on HOA land, even though a survey proved otherwise. They ended up moving 6 months later. That made it clear this wasn't personal. It was a pattern. She had a history of targeting people who weren't under her control. But she picked the wrong person this time. I was calm on the outside, but inside, I was getting ready to fight back. I decided it was time to stop just reacting and start building my case. Every time Karen stepped onto the edge of my property, I recorded it. Every time an officer responded to one of her calls, I asked for the incident report. I even installed a few discreet trail cameras around the cabin to catch her in action, just in case she tried anything while I was gone. And sure enough, she did. One afternoon, I caught her on camera, walking along my dock, phone in hand, snapping pictures and muttering to herself. She had no reason to be there. That footage became the final piece of evidence I needed. By this point, I had a full binder documents. Video clips, screenshots of her notes, and audio of her accusing me of disturbing Lake Harmony to a group of neighbors at a community event. That same day, I contacted a lawyer who specialized in property disputes and harassment cases. When he saw what I had, he didn't even hesitate. "This isn't just nuisance," he said. "This is targeted harassment." The tension around the cabin was thick. Every time I stepped outside, I wondered if I was being watched or recorded. Karen stopped smiling in that fake, sugary way and started staring me down whenever we crossed paths. It was like a silent war. I filed the lawsuit quietly, but word spread fast. Suddenly, people who had once avoided me were coming around to ask questions. And Karen, she had no idea what was coming. Just when I thought I had everything lined up and under control, a certified letter showed up in my mailbox from the HOA's legal representative. It claimed I was in ongoing violation of neighborhood standards and warned that further action may be taken. I was stunned. I wasn't even a member of the HOA. How could they send me a legal notice? I immediately called my lawyer. He reviewed the letter and shook his head. "This isn't from the HOA board," he said. "It's from a private attorney, hired by someone using the HOA's name." That's when the second twist hit me. Karen had gone rogue again, this time hiring her own lawyer to make it look like official HOA business. It was a bold move, and it raised the stakes in a big way. My attorney filed a motion to investigate the origin of the letter and issued a formal cease and desist. Meanwhile, Karen continued acting like nothing was wrong, even walking by my cabin, like she still had the upper hand. But things were shifting. People in the neighborhood were starting to ask questions. Why was she going this far? And why was she speaking on behalf of the HOA when the actual board hadn't issued any statements? I kept quiet, letting the evidence build. My court date was approaching, and the pressure was clearly getting to her. She tried one last move before everything came to a head. That one. That was the biggest mistake she could have made. The day of the hearing arrived, and I walked into the courtroom with everything: videos, documents, witness statements, and that fake legal letter. Karen was already there, sitting stiffly with her lawyer, flipping through a stack of loose papers like she was building a case on the fly. The judge wasted no time. My lawyer presented the facts clearly, showing a pattern of harassment, misuse of legal threats, and repeated false reports to local authorities. Then came the twist. When the judge asked Karen's lawyer for their response, he hesitated. Turns out, Karen hadn't told him the full story. She hadn't mentioned that my property wasn't under the HOA. She hadn't told him the HOA board had publicly distanced themselves from her actions weeks earlier. The judge paused, then asked if she had any written authority to act on behalf of the HOA. She didn't. Nothing. Not a signature. Not a document. Just her word. The judge looked at her and said plainly, "You've crossed a line." Within minutes, the ruling came down. She was ordered to cease all contact with me, pay damages for harassment, and issue a formal written apology. But then came the real shock. My lawyer had quietly filed a separate claim for defamation, and the judge allowed it to proceed immediately. Karen's face went pale in trying to control everyone else. she lost control of everything herself, and as I walked out of that courthouse, I knew one thing for sure: peace at the lake had finally been restored. After the ruling, everything changed. Karen disappeared from the public eye almost overnight. The HOA board released an official statement confirming she had never held a position and that her actions did not reflect the organization's values. A few neighbors who had kept their distance came by to apologize, admitting they believed her stories at first. One even thanked me for standing up to her, saying it gave them the courage to set their own boundaries. I used the settlement money from the harassment and defamation case to make a few upgrades to the cabin, nothing flashy. Just things my grandfather had always planned but never got to. It felt good knowing the place was protected, not just legally, but with a little piece of justice tied to it. The false reports stopped. No more surprise visits. No more strangers questioning if I belonged on my own property. Peace and quiet finally returned to the lake. Looking back, I realized the whole situation was never really about rules or regulations. It was about control and what can happen when one person believes they're above the truth. But with patience, persistence, and the right support, even that kind of pressure can be challenged. This wasn't just a win for Met, was a reminder that property rights, boundaries, and basic respect still matter.